Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on this very large Stamperia Magic Forest album. Finished size after wrapping were about 10 1/8, 11 1/4, and the spine is about 2 7/8. So one thing I did do on this, after I was done filming the tutorials, I ended up adding a little stickles to some of the flower petals and on the deer. So that's optional. I did put it in the materials list in case you want to do that. I have some on the key, I have some down in here, just little places here and there. So this album is huge and it holds a lot of photo mats and your photos. So I'm going to take you around. This is quite large. I don't know if I can get this all in the screen, but as you can see, there's the spine. Here is the back. All right, let's get into this. This was so much fun to make. I love this paper. All right, so we are on page 1, and right off the bat, we have 2 pockets. And we do create these folders together in the tutorial. Then we have a very large fold out, and I'm just gonna pull this right on over here. We have a large side pocket, and I've got some good sized photo mats in here. Oh, and I got a little tag. Now we don't do photo mats together. Everyone has their own taste and size of what they like to do with theirs. All right, right over here we have sliding waterfall. So all you have to do is pull this little tab and they start flipping for you. Just like that. Pretty cool, kind of fun. I haven't done this in like 3 years, so I thought I would do something different in this album. All right, over here I have a pocket, and here is a mat, and here is a mat that's in there. And then once again, I did something I haven't done in years. I think the last time I showed how to make this was like in a baby album tutorial. But anyway, all you do is you open this up and that comes out, and you can put some smaller photos in there, maybe a smaller one here, or you can even just journal in here. And then it just kind of all folds back, and then we have a magnetic closure. So there's that again, all back. All right, let's move on. Next page. Page 3. I have a tag tucked right up front there, and I'm going to go ahead and do this side first, and then this is obvious. It's a 3-tier pocket, but this is magnetic, and you can stuff a tag or something right behind her. Anyway, it folds up. Large album, so I'm going to show you. There's a place right here for a photo mat. This folds down, another spot for a photograph. And then we have the side pocket, and I have a couple photo mats in there, good size ones. And then over here is the pockets. So 1, 2, and 3. And they're good sized ones to fit some good sized photo mats in there. Over here, what we have is a folder, and it's magnetic. It opens up, and you can journal or place a photograph in there. Behind that is a huge pocket, and I have some larger picture mats in here, and a little tag. Moving on, we are now on page 5, and we have like a little mini book here, and then I have some photo mats tucked back behind, and you can also get a photograph right in here, which is nice. Okay, this is magnetic. It opens up, and you can place a photo here and also on the inside. Now, we didn't cover these in the tutorial because there just wasn't enough to cover this plus make some photo mats. So if you want to cover this, I would use some solid colored cardstock. Craft colored would look great in this album. But this gives you 10 places. Plus you have all this, so it holds quite a bit. All right, here we are, page 6. Right up front, I have a little tag tucked in there. So she's a little different. She actually will hold your photo mats back behind her, and you can place them in this way. You can also get them in this way, just like that. Next page, we have a magnetic flip here. And up front we have a pocket. I have some photo mats there. This is a little tuck area. You can put a tag back behind him. All right, so this is a little different. This is magnetic and this will fold out. This is a large side pocket, so you can get some larger photo mats in there, plus place a photo there. And we have an inside pocket. This is a good size photo mat. Now this is magnetic over here. You fold it out and there's places for photographs. You can even tuck a little back underneath there if you wanted, or another mat. So that's kind of a fun page that we did. Coming to our last page, this is magnetic and it opens up. And you can see we have two pockets here. And we have two flips, and on the other side you can do journal or place a photograph. And then this huge back pocket. And I have some pretty good sized photo mats back there. And you can also plant one right here. So that is what we are making today. It is a lot of fun. And the paper is absolutely beautiful. Also, at the end of the tutorial, we do reinforce these page hinges because these pages are huge. There's gravity and they're heavy. So we do that together at the very end. Let's move on into the materials list. Materials list. So let's go through it really quickly. You're going to need 3 packs of the Stamperia Magic Forest 12 by 12 paper packs. This is a large album. Now, you can use, I'm going to be using a pack of the Basil 12 by 12 Licorice Twist black cardstock. However, you don't have to. I decided just to use this. This is about 100 pound or so. If you are doing that as well, you're going to need 3 sheets of a lesser weight for your album wrap. So you can use 3 sheets of black 65 pound. You can use the American Crafts 80 pound. I just decided to do it this way. If you would just like to use the American Crafts 80 pound cardstock, you can do that. You're going to need some Tyvek, and I'll be cutting a couple strips off this, and this is for the binding. And if you don't know what Tyvek is, it is a very sturdy material. It's hard to tear, and I just use that as a backup for our bindings so things don't fall apart down the road. All right, so chipboard. You're going to need at least 2.5 sheets of the medium weight chipboard. It doesn't have to be black. It can be natural colored. If you have no chipboard at all, get 3 sheets. But I have some scrap here. You're going to need a couple packs of the magnets, and I'm using the basic gray large magnets. Now, I will be using a full pack. I might use a few out of here. So you'll have leftovers for sure. Score tape. I'm going to use 2 packs of the 3/8. And I've already gotten into this one, so I might have to get into another pack or whatnot, but it's approximate. If you are not sure, get 3 packs. I am using the Art Glitter Dries Clear Glue in conjunction with my score tape. And also you'll want to get that metal tip. I'm going to be putting some flowers on the cover. I might put some here and there inside, but I did do a flower tutorial on how to achieve these unique colors, and I'll be using some leaves. So there is a link below the video in the description area if you're looking to make your own flowers. Other things you're going to need, equipment or tools, is you're going to want a scoring board, a paper cutter, your bone or scoring tool, ruler, pencil, eraser, craft knife, and some scissors. The only other thing you're going to need to do is download the free PDF of the materials and cutting guide. And that link is under the video in the description area. And all that's going to give you is the materials I'm using with some links and how to cut your black cardstock and your chipboard and Tyvek. As far as cutting, The decorative paper, we do that in the video together so you can get the same results as I do. All right, let's start building the base album. Let's review our pre-cuts to assemble the base album. And this is off that free PDF of the cutting guide. First up, we would have cut our chipboard down, 2 pieces down to 10" by 11" and we labeled those covers. Those are our chipboard covers. We cut on our chipboard 2.5 inches by 10 inches and we called it a spine. We cut 2 pieces of Tyvek. They were 1 inch by 10 inch. We did not label these. Next, what we did was, now this would have been on a 65-pound or an 80-pound cardstock. We cut 2 pieces that were 10 inch by 12 inch and we labeled them album wrap. We also cut a 6 inch by 12 inch piece that was called an album wrap. Now I'm using the 100-pound basil, so the rest of my pre-cuts in this video will be on that. But if you're just using the American Crafts 80-pound, it's perfectly fine. So the next thing that we did was we cut 3 pieces that was 9.5 by 11 inch and we called them inner page. And on each one of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board and we scored each at 5/8. And I only labeled one of mine. It was only needed for one, but if you labeled all of yours, that's fine. Next, we had a 5 inch by 9.5 inch. We called this an inner spine cover. There's no scoring. We also cut 2 pieces that were 9.5 by 10.5, and these are inner covers. All right, let's begin. The first pieces that we're going to want are those 3 album wraps. So we had a 6 by 12 and we had 2 pieces that were 10 by 12. Let's grab our score tape. And what we're going to do, first off, what I want you to do so you don't get these in the wrong orientation is make sure that, place a ruler down and make sure that you are 12 inches tall. So let's just put a 12 inch here because we are 12 inches this way, and that way you don't connect them the wrong way. So we will lay a piece of score tape right along the edge of one of these larger pieces without going over. And we'll give that a good burnish. And then we're going to grab our 6 by 12 inch piece. We'll remove the score tape backing and we will just line that right up. Now I usually put this on my paper cutter to use the guide. I'm going to give this a shot trying to line this up without. So there we go. If it's not completely perfect, it's okay. Okay, next, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our other 10 by 12 and we are 12 inches long. And on this piece over here, we're going to lay a piece of score tape right along the edge without going over. And all we're doing is seaming these together. And if some of you are wondering why I wouldn't have kept this at 12 by 12, it's because where I want the seams to fall on the album. Now I've got a little bit of overhang, and if you do, check your pieces. You want to clip off that overhang. Get that backing up there. And once again, I'm going to take this piece. This is the middle piece, the 6 by 12, and it goes over this. So I'm going to do the best I can. I like my paper cutter because that guide helps me so much. All right, we'll go with it there. It's not quite even, and that's okay because we're going to use this to wrap and everything gets covered. I'm going to show you before we do this. This is such a big piece. I don't know if I can get it all in frame. I'm going to back this out a little bit. Hopefully the camera isn't bouncing too much from moving it. I hate it when that happens. Okay, so this is what we have. You have 2 chipboard covers. What you're going to do is lay it, and right now we are 10 inches tall, and then we would be 11 inches wide. So right now what I want you to do is place this down even, so top and bottom. So you're going to have about 1 inch here and 1 inch here, black cardstock, and you're going to want about 1 inch over here. Just lay that down. Same thing for over here, about 1 inch in, and you'll have about 1 inch of your other. Here's the spine. This goes right in between, and that should give you approximately, we're looking for about 1/4 inch spacing between the covers and the spine. So that's how it's all going to lay out. Let's go ahead and get these ready. I like to show people first before they do. So I'm going to move all of this out of the way while I get my score tape. So what we do with this one, we'll do with that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to line around our pieces. We're even going to do it on this one. Let's get this ready. Be a lot quicker. So we're going to go all the way around the edges without going over, like a picture frame on each one of these. Let's start there. If you end up going over, it's okay. You're not going to see this part. But I try to keep mine as clean as possible. And again, it does not matter what color chipboard you use because you're not going to see it. All right, so far I have all 3 pieces. Let's go with the covers. These are large pieces, so for the cover, let's go ahead and go down the middle of each one, and then we're going to stick 2 pieces in between that middle point. And we're going to do the same with the other cover. So I'm going to get this one ready. Now for the spine, we're just going to do 2 in between the sides. So just kind of put them down there. If you are new to using score tape, you definitely have to burnish the tape down. If you don't, air is going to get caught underneath there, and it can create liftage, and that's no fun. If we're going to put all the work and time and love into these, let's make sure that we do it right. Burnishing is I don't like to burnish, but I do because I know I need to. All 3 of my pieces are ready to go. And here is this. I'm going to start with one of my larger pieces here. I'm going to remove my score tape, and then we're going to place this together. All right, here I go. Again, I'm going to stay about 1 inch away from the side, 1 inch down here, approximately, whatever you can do there. Just make sure you get this on as straight as you can. And I usually look along the bottom. And if you don't get it on perfectly straight, it's okay. It's okay. Now we're going to go with the spine. We'll remove the score tape backing. Okay, remember, about 1/4 inch is when we laid it out is where we need to be. And if you end up with a little more over here on that side, that's okay. Just make sure you get these on straight. Line up the bottom of your chipboard with the bottom of this as best you can. If you get a little more than 1/4 inch, that's okay too. Okay, I'm going to go right there. And now I'm going to get this one on. And here's another thing. What you can do is, if you're worried that you're not going to have enough space or you have too much of a gap, lay your piece down again before removing, and you can see that you should. If you end up having only 3/4 over here, that's fine. You have enough to wrap. I try to make these tutorials and everything to where there's always a little wiggle room. Here we go. So lining it up now with the bottom of that, say right about there. Okay, we'll burnish on the other side in a bit. I mean, you can run your tool over the chipboard, but we will be burnishing on the other side, but just not yet. So here's a thing. As you can see, I have a little more black cardstock than over here. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. You're not going to see that by the time we're done wrapping. Next up, we are going to grab our Tyvek. I'm going to move this out of the way. Let's grab our score tape. All we need to do with this is we're going to line this right along the edge all the way down, and we'll do it on the edge over there without going over. And if you are having a problem with your Tyvek crinkling, it doesn't matter. You won't see it, and it will iron out once we get the other paper on top. So we're going to do this with both pieces. Tyvek's kind of a harder material to kind of work with because you may also have a seam in the middle. Okay, don't worry about it. It's not going to come apart, and you're definitely not going to see it. We're going to give that a burnish. And you may find your paper is curling. That's completely normal if that happens. Okay, I'm going to show you first before we do. You see our gaps in between our chipboard. We're going to remove the backing. All we do with this is we're going to line this up on each side. It just covers that little spacing. That's all it's going to do on each side. So let's do that. When taking tutorials, your pause button is going to be your best friend so that you can pause, complete a task, and then resume. Here we go. And if you don't get this on straight, it's still okay. You won't see it. It'll still do its job. I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to place this. The next thing we're going to do is get our wrap ready. And we'll start over here. And all we're going to do is lightly kind of help it a little by little. Don't do it all at once. All we're doing is loosening up the fiber so that it will go around our album. And we'll do that over here, just little by little. Okay. Now, sometimes, because you have seams here, you may get what's called the splits or splintering. If you get that, well, I'll show you how to fix it. It's not a big deal. So, because this is a long piece and we do have seams, what we're going to do is start a little bit at a time, right in the middle there. We'll move and just keep moving down. And as you can see, I'm only going a little bit because it's such a long piece and we don't want it to tear. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth. I'll do this. I'll go probably a total of 3 times before I can get this comfortably to lay over like the sides. Each time putting a little more pressure. All right, do the same for this side. Okay, let's flatten that back out. We're going to get our score tape and get this ready to go. First thing, on your chipboard along the edge, we're going to go and line this all the way around. So I'm going to put score tape on the chipboard at the edge all the way around without going over. Okay, so this is what I have. Next, what we're going to do is starting over here about, I'd say about 3/4 of an inch in from the side, we're going to start laying our score tape, and we're not going to go over the edge. We don't want this to look sloppy. The reason why we're not going completely to the end is because we will be cutting this at an angle before we wrap it. I've burnished. Now let's grab our scissors. Find the tip of your chipboard. And what you can do, if you've never done this before, you can just measure out about 1/8 away from the tip of that chipboard and make a pencil mark. If you are new to this, it might be helpful. If you've done this before, you know what to do. We're just going to clip at an angle and eyeball this. Your angles do not have to be precise. I'm just going to go ahead and clip mine. We're going to do this on each edge. So we're staying 1/8 away about. And again, your angles do not have to be perfect at all. Such a large piece. All right, we've burnished, we've clipped, we're ready to go. I'm going to be removing the score tape off this piece. And I'm just going to remove all of it at once. Okay, don't jump ahead. We do need to tuck corners in, so if this is your first time, just follow along. We're going to start with the bottom piece, and we've worked that, but since it's a large piece, you might want to push it up a little, and then what we're going to start in the middle where those seams are and pull it over. And then we're going to gently press over until we get to the side. And you'll leave these alone right now. So I've got that. So now I'm just going to keep continuing to press and get that over. Now I'm going to give it a little burnish. I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to do the same thing here. Just a little burnish. Here is a tip. When you come to your seam, you want to go in the direction. Don't go back against the which way it's supposed to go. If you get any wrinkles, that's fine. We're going to be covering this up. Sometimes it happens. Okay, so we're going to start up here. And I think you can see it. I am going to bring the camera in more. What you're going to want to do with your tool is you'll place it at the top. Place a hand down on the chipboard, maybe one on that flap to keep it down and sturdy. And it's going to be like you're going around a corner. And you can kind of press it down. But all we're doing is tucking in that edge a little bit. And I'm going to bring this up, and then we'll be burnishing, of course. But do you see how I did that? You'll see that this kind of tucks in. Okay, same thing down here. This one I always feel a little more awkward doing because I'm actually going this way. But I have a hand down on the chipboard, a finger down on that flap, and I'm going to go around the corner as best I can. Like I said, I'm awkward going from the bottom. And you don't have to be perfect, just make sure that this little bit gets tucked in there. And I think I got it pretty good. So now, and I see this little edge can tuck in just a little better. There we go. Now we're going to just fold this over and we will burnish. And by doing that, and we're going to get those edges. And by doing that, it stops from a real pokey edge down in the corners. And you can also use your tool to kind of push in and down. So here we go, as you can see. And you don't have to line up, that gets covered. Okay, I'm going to flip this album around, do the same thing, okay? And pretty good. Also, here's another tip. It's almost impossible to keep your hands from touching the score tape. You are going to want to wash your hands and get all lotions off, any oils, lotions, whatever, because the score tape doesn't like it. It's kind of like Scotch tape. Have you ever put your finger down and you see your imprint? Well, that's oils or dirts coming off. And then it's less effective. Whoops. So here we are, and it doesn't matter which way you want to go with it. Does not matter at all. Next, so don't bend your album yet. I know you want to do it, but we're just not going to do it. The 5 by 9.5 inner spine cover is one of the most important pieces to this album construction. And the reason why is because once we place this down, and I'm going to show you where this is going to go. Once we place this down, our page hinges are going to attach to it. And we don't want any liftage. So with this, we'll be putting score tape around the outside like a picture frame, and then we're going to line one next to the other all the way across. It places right over evenly this. And when you place this, you're going to do even top and bottom. So you'll probably have a good 1/4 inch down here and a 1/4 inch of your chipboard wrapping up here. And that is exactly what you want. So as I'm doing this, I am noticing I have a seam here and a seam here. It may be helpful just to place this piece right on over till you hit the seam, because these get covered too, but that might be a good guideline for you. So I hope that makes sense. I'll review it again before we do it, but let's get our score tape on here. Again, all the way around like a picture frame, and then we're going to line one next to the other all the way across. Let's give this a really good burnish. Okay, I've got my score tape on. I'm going to remove it all, and then we're going to place our piece together. I have all the score tape backing off, and now it's time to place. Here we go. I made that pencil mark, and I'm going to be in between those seams. Try to get that on as straight as I can. And we're going to spend some time burnishing. If you hear crinkles as you're doing it, that's the air coming out, the little air pockets. So now we finally get to close our album. And what I want you to do with this is place your hand on that spine, place a hand over here and slide it under. We're going to press down and slowly work this up. Now, what I like to do is you're not going to bring it all the way over. You're just not. You're going to rip out your sides. These books are, well, this construction is not meant to do that. I like to place a hand right in the middle and have it upwards. And as soon as I hit right here, I'm done. Your book is going to be stiff to start, but it will relax over time. Just want to do that. So if after you're done with that, you will notice your book just wants to be like this. It's okay. By the time we are done working in this book and gravity, it's going to lay perfect. It's not going to keep popping open like that on you. The next two pieces that we need are the 9.5 by 10.5 inner covers. So right now, 9.5 is this. If you need to write 9.5 so that you know that we are 9.5 this way on your pieces, just so you don't forget, you can do that. Now, I will be keeping this side up. If you can keep your directions, you can put your score tape on this side, but I am going to leave it and then I can always erase it, okay? Just so for visual for you. So what we're going to be doing on this, after you went like this, you'll see where your hinge is. This piece here is going to match up. Here is the bottom of that inner spine cover. So the bottom of this is going to lay right on over it. We will leave about 1/4 inch away from the side. And we're going to place it, and that should keep us even, and that's going to clean this up. And then I'll erase all this because we're going to be labeling our pages. Same thing over here. This is going to line up with the bottom of our inner thing. We'll keep it straight because we can look over here just how straight we are. We'll be about 1/4 inch away from the edge. Okay, we're going to go score tape around the outside like a picture frame on each piece. So we're going to go one down the middle, and we'll just put 2. Get this down. And if you want to do some shorter pieces in there, just conserve, you'll be fine doing that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same over here. Let's give this a good burnish, and then I'm going to remove my score tape backing. I have the score tape backing off this again. My first thing I'm going to do is line up the bottom of this with the bottom of that spine cover. I'm going to place it right on top there and leave 1/4 inch away from the side, but I'm mostly looking to keep that straight. If you end up with a little less or a little more over there, that's fine. And if you slip like I just did and don't get it completely lined up, you really aren't going to be able to see by the time we're done or notice it. So I'm going to erase this really quick because our decorative paper is going to sit on top of here and this will get covered. But I want to label these and I want it to look clean so that it's easy for everyone to visually see. Same thing over here. Again, if you get this on crooked or not exactly, maybe it slips a little and it grabs, don't worry. By the time we're done with our paper, you are not going to see it. Our decorative paper is going to steal the show. Okay, the last pieces to the puzzle here are our 3 9.5 by 11 inner pages. We're going to fold on those score lines, and we will use our tool to help it out there. And I only labeled one because I could tell the difference between these. These are the only ones with the score line. All right, so we're going to work with this with the peak up. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to have the peak over here. If you're left-handed, you might want to have your peak over here. It might be easier. But on each one of these, so here's my peak, and I can kind of press it down. What we're going to do is grab our score tape. Now we're going to line on this little hinge with our score tape without going over that peak. I don't want it on the peak, just to the side of it. Now you may see, whoops, I'm out of score tape. Now you may see that there's only a little bit left here. If you have a 1/4 inch, you can lay it on top. If not, you can use your 3/8 again and overlap. And that's what I'm going to do. I hate it when score tape runs out right in the middle of a hinge. I like to have one thing going. So here's this, and I'm just going to overlap. Now, if you go over the edge, we will be inspecting. So if I have score tape over the edge, we will be inspecting our piece. So I'm just going right on over without going over the edge. I can kind of still see my black there. Bring it to the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our tool and we're going to burnish. And I'm going to make sure I get right on in there because I did overlap. And then I'm going to burnish on top. And with each one of your pieces, you will flip it over. And if you can see any score tape peeking over the edge, even just a little bit, you're going to clip it. Okay, let's continue on. We're going to do the same thing with the other two. I have all the score tape on. I've inspected to make sure I don't have any overhang. And now it's time to get these in the book. All right, so what we're going to do is once we take the score tape backing off, so here is my peak, here's the adhesive. I'll be flipping it like this. So now we'll have this and the adhesive would be down. We're going to pull up this side. Now you see the bottom of this will match up again with the bottom of your inner spine cover here. And this is the easiest thing. All we're going to do is push it right up against. So if you have this straight up, you push it right up against that. You line it up with the bottom and it's going to go down. Okay, I'm ready to go. My first one, lining up with the bottom as best I can. I'm pushing it up against. And I'm just going to press. And it's down. We're going to use our tool to burnish that really well. And I'll flip that over and burnish from this side. And I'm going to erase this. If you've got any splintering down here, we'll cover that when we reach decorating the outside, the next section. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing off this one. So here's my flap. So the adhesive's down here. These are the easiest ones. All we have to do now is we'll be pushing it up against this page, lining it up with the bottom and pressing. And when we're done, we'll have just a little more space back there so that we can do something really fun. It'll be just a little bit of space, extra space possibly. It just depends on how far we get our piece pushed up against that cover on that first one we placed. So here's this. I'm pushing it up against. I'm kind of leaving it at an angle so it doesn't all grab. And that way I can kind of see, and then I can press. These are the easier ones. And you'll find that these go on fairly straight for you when we do it like this. Okay, last one. All right, so now when I place this up, you can kind of see what this looks like. Let's see if I can get that. You can kind of see. Now, for me, I have just a little bit more space back here because of how I put this on, but that's okay. I want you to leave the space, in the larger space, if you have one, in the back. So if it's in the back, we'll place this down. We're going to grab our pencil. We're going to put front. Okay, now we're just going to rotate this over and we're going to put the back. This is so that you get your orientation correct. So we're back here. We're going to open this up. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, this is a large album. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have 8 pages to decorate. However, each one of these pages are going to have something on it. So we'll get more out of this. So right now, as you can see how large this is, just doing the front, the back, and decorating all these pages is going to take 10 sheets. All right, we are done. It looks good. We are now moving on to decorating the outside of the album. So let's move on. We are on to decorating the outside. We did have a couple pre-cuts. They are the same. We cut 2 that are 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and we just called them an outside mat. So I'm going to put this out of the way for a moment. One thing that you may want to do, because we have 3 paper packs, is to undo all those paper packs and put all the covers together, put all the other prints the same together. It may make it easier for when we're trying to grab paper out of this. They're all together and we're not shifting through 3 packs. So the first thing we're going to do is grab these 2 prints out of our paper pack. On the back is one of my favorite prints. We're going to use these for the cover, this print. So one thing I want to tell you is that to get the same results as me, I am going to be very detailed on how to cut your paper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to double these up, and we have the borders at the bottom. Now I try to stay consistent, so starting on this side and measuring over this way, I may have us turn the paper this way and say measure over and cut. So it's always starting over here, measuring over this way, and that way I'm not having you cut up, down, all around if I can avoid that. So we first have our 2 pieces, they're doubled up. We are going to turn them, so now the border is over here. Measure over 9 7/8 and cut. So my blade is right here. So 9 7/8, and I'm going to cut. Now things that fall off the side, unless I tell you to hold on to them, we're going to stick in what I call a reserve pile. It's a scrap pile. I call it a reserve pile because I'm reserving these pieces to use later on in the tutorial. All right, we still have them together. The band is at the bottom. Measure over 11 inches and cut. So 11 inches. And some of these pieces that are skinny and long, that we're putting in our scrap pile can be very useful for us for conserving paper. So I'm going to get this out of the way, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do before we do it. So here's my front, and the opening is over here. If you were to lay this down and center it in there, it's going to give us a beautiful black border all the way around. It's going to frame it. So here's the front, and of course we open up our orientation. Page 1 is here. This one's going to go here on the front, and then on the back, the same thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn these over. That's one of my favorite prints. I'm using score tape. So I'm going to go score tape all the way around like a picture frame to start without going over. If you go over, you must clip off any overhang. Otherwise, dust can accumulate, dirt, whatever, and it doesn't look very attractive. So I'm going to go all the way around. Thankfully, we have one more print like this that I can use. I think that's one of my favorites. It is my favorite. And this is my favorite print too. They would have to do that to me. Now, some of you have been watching how I'm laying my score tape. If you're new, if you notice I kind of wrap it around the edge, it will create a little bit of bulk, but I usually make sure I burnish really good down on them corners. Another way to do it so you don't have to deal with that is just to get to the end and tear it off and then continue on. I just do it this way because it's quicker, especially doing tutorials. And I do burnish down those edges really good. Okay, what we do on this one, we're going to do the same on this one. So we're going to go one down the middle. And we're going to do 2 shorter ones, maybe leave an inch there, an inch down here. That will be plenty, just to save a little bit. And if you're not sure about that, you can always squirt in a little glue. And I do have something that is going to help you with placing this. These are large, and score tape is not forgiving. So when you put it down, if you're crooked, that is the worst feeling. So once we get this one done and we're ready to place, I'll show you what I'm going to do. And it is helpful. I've got the score tape on both of mine. And I'm going to make sure my orientation is correct. Here's the front. I'm going to remove the score tape backing. I've got all the score tape backing off. Now this is where this little trick is helpful. This is the bottom. So I'm going to shoot a little glue down here. And when I place this, I'm going to start at the bottom and make sure it's on straight, and the glue is going to help so I can still maneuver. So I don't want to get my head in the video. So I'm going to try not to. Once I have that down, I can open it up and burnish. And if you're doing around the corners like I did, like I said, make sure you get burnished down those corners really good if you're doing your score tape wrapping like I do, rather than tear off. And we'll clean up any glue that wants to seep out. All right, so that's the bottom. We're going to just rotate that over. We'll remove the score tape backing, shoot some glue, and place it. I do want to say that if you didn't get your paper on exactly straight, the chances of anyone really noticing by the time we're done, nobody's going to know. In your paper pack, you will find this print, and on the back it is this. And let's see, we're going to turn this completely upside down. The band is up here. Measure over 2 5/8 and cut. After making that cut, this is what you should have. The bigger piece goes into our reserves. We're going to turn it like this. The band is over here. I want you to measure over 9 7/8 and cut. After making that cut, this is what you have. The small piece goes into our reserves. Now, this is what we're going to use for the spine. I'm going to bring mine up. It's easier for me sometimes to see. When I place this down, it's going to be centered top and bottom, and it probably will match up with the top and bottom of that because it's the same. When I lay it down, sometimes it's hard for me to determine exactly where those hinges are. And that's why I like to do mine like that. Okay, now if you'd rather have that side up, that'd be pretty, but I am going to go with this. It kind of blends more. Okay, score tape around the outside like a picture frame to start. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball this, but two strips in between there. Just space them out the best you can. And then we're going to give this a good burnish. We will inspect to make sure there's no score tape peeking out because it will show. Okay, I'm going to remove my score tape backing. Now, if you like that idea of shooting a little glue down at the bottom to help you maneuver, you can do that with this too. Time to place it. And then once I have it down, it is much easier if you lay it down though, I will say that. Okay, so make sure your orientation is correct. If you've moved your album around, if you open up, you'll see page 1 here. Now the fun begins. I'm going to just kind of put that off to the side. In your paper pack, you will find this print. I'm going to grab my paper cutter. We're going to be looking at the side that doesn't have all the prints there. And all we're going to do is put this on our paper cutter, and we are going to cut right on down to leave these alone. And it's going to be right to the right side of the blue, so I'll cut off the white. I'll show you. So I'll bring this up so you can see. I left the blue, and then I have this. This goes in my reserves. So we're going to be cutting to do the same thing. All we want is the blue frame around each of these. So I'm going to be using my paper cutter to keep them straight and just cutting off the white part of the trim. And if I see any of the white, I will definitely trim it up a little more. Let's grab our outside mats, and these should fit. If you need to do a trimming, that's fine. But if you were to place it down and center it in there, that will give you a nice black border all the way around. We are just going to use our glue for this. You don't need score tape. You'll see me using glue on certain things and then score tape on other. It's just my preference. And we're going to do the same thing. This goes down on top of that. Now, if you've cut maybe a little more of the blue off than you wanted to, and you have too much black showing on part of the trim, you can trim that down. Just leave a little bit, a 1/16 of black showing. Let's grab the cover. So I will tell you, this one is going to be the one that is centered in there, side to side. I have it coming up maybe 1/2 inch or so from the bottom. We're not going to glue it down yet because I want you to see. So that's in the middle. This one, we're going to slip behind. So what we're doing is we're just going to kind of lay this out like this. This is always centered side to side, up a little bit. And then this one is going to be like that. So what I think I'm going to do first is put some glue around this side so I can still slip in the other one, and then I'll fill it in. That way I know that I'm going to get this the way I want it. So that's there, about 1/2 inch up from the band. And now I'm going to quickly put some glue here before this completely dries, and then I can get underneath here. Lift it up and just leave a little bit, maybe 3/4 of an inch or something. Now I'm just going to add some glue under here, and I'll wipe up anything that needs to be. And I'm going to open this up. It'll make it easier for me. There we go. All right, I'm gonna set this off to the side because we have some work to do. In your paper pack, the very last page, we have some things that we want to get after. So here's the deer and here's this. So I'm gonna clip out and around the deer. I'm gonna only take off what's needed so that pieces off this do not get lost in my scrap pile. So I'm just gonna kind of weave around this deer. Okay, I got some leaves here in the mix. Let's grab the key while we're at it. And we'll clean this up when we're done. But as you can see, I'm leaving this intact rather than cutting it off. It's too hard for me to find some of these pieces once they've been clipped off. All right, so now I'm just gonna clip that key. I'm gonna get this other one out of here. Now with the deer antlers, it does look kind of hard. I think the deer's gonna be the hardest piece for us to cut out and around. And as far as these leaves, I'll cut them out and put them off to the side. So far, that's what we need off this. This can go in our reserves for now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out and around each one of these images. You might wanna wait to see how I do my deer before you do it. So I will show you as soon as I am done here. So I am done cutting out my pieces. I'm gonna bring them up to the camera so you can see what I did. I won't lie, the deer is a labor of love and we still have things to do with him, but it's gonna be well worth it, believe me. So the first one was this, and I didn't get real crazy with it. I just cut out and around it. The key was very simple. I just cut straight down on the sides there. Now the deer, I'm gonna hold this up. You may wanna pause to see what I did, but I did come in very close. But once I got up here to the antlers, I did leave a little bit of white around it, and I kind of just went around, and then I sharpened up those edges where the antlers were. And then once I came back around over here, I cut it close, and this is what I got. All right, this is why I said it's going to be a little bit more work to do. But what we're going to do is we're going to glue these pieces down to black cardstock, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving about, oop, I got way too much glue there, about a 1/16 inch of black showing, because that will bring our pieces forward and it'll look really good. Clean up our fussy cutting a little bit. I'm going to put the key right here. So grab some of your scratch black cardstock from maybe when you were cutting out your pre-cuts. You'll want to keep that handy because we do this sometimes. Don't know if my deer's gonna fit here. Let's see if I can maneuver him. Nope, I'm gonna grab him. I'll glue him down to something like that. And I'm just gonna get these pieces ready to go. Leave that for later. Okay, so I'm going to glue him down and I'm going to cut out and around him. And if you have smaller scissors to fussy cut with, it may be more helpful when getting him done. I'll show you what mine look like as soon as I'm done with it. Well, that was quite the fussy cutting session, and I know that was torturous. And I had to sit there and laugh a little bit while I was cutting him back out and around, you know, leaving the black. Because I know some of you that take my tutorials and know me that I was going to say that and you were cringing the whole time hoping it wasn't true, but we did it and it's gonna pay off. Now if you want to be naughty and not back it to black cardstock, you can. But those are our pieces. I'm gonna bring these up. So you can be as naughty as you want, but I did do the deed here. Black cardstock. And here is him, my labor of love, your labor of love if you did it. But he looks really good. He's gonna stick out really nice. Okay, there's another piece of the puzzle. On the back of this, we're gonna get out a piece. Now when you cut this out, leave this little trim piece alone. We're just going to come in from the side and cut. Sometimes we need fantasy to survive the reality. And that holds true for me. That's true. In this day and age, in this world, right? All right, let's cut out and around this. And then we are going to back this to black cardstock, but it'll be easy and quick because we're going to be done with that cover in no time. All right, this piece here, we're going to stick this down so it's not all the way over. We're not going to do anything right now. Matter of fact, I'm going to prop up this album a little bit so it sits flatter so you can see. But this is my idea of what I wanted to do. This one just goes up a little bit from the top in the center somewhere. Just lay that down right here for now. The star of the show is right here, and he is going to overlap and sit just like this. You can move him in a little more, just don't cover your words. Okay, I'm going to start getting mine down. So not completely in the center, maybe a little down there. And I'm going to give that a burnish here in a minute. Whoa! Come back. Don't do that. I'm going to tilt mine just a little bit so I can see if it's halfway straight. The key, I'm going to wait. If you are not using flowers, you can just place your key over here or right here. I am using flowers, but I'm going to be doing something different, so I'm going to get him down. Now, when I get him down, I'm going to leave, because I'm using flowers, I'm going to leave this leg with nothing. I will tack that down with glue once I'm done with my flowers. Just make sure you get all your little pointy antlers. If you are not using flowers, you'll get his whole leg. But I just want to make sure I get a good start here. Okay, I'm going to take these out, open up my book, and burnish. All right, if you are not using flowers, go ahead and glue your key down right about here, or you can go a little higher actually, right about there, and your cover will be done. I am using some flowers that I made. So I'm just going to grab some here, fool around with them. I will be tucking some of this underneath him. So I want to do this. Kind of do what I need to do here. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to grab one with a little more color on it. Off to the side, and I'm just going to place these and fool around with them for a bit. Take this and bring it down underneath something like this, down in the corner. Put that there. Put that right like that. So I think that's how I'm going to do down here. Just right down under there. And as far as this, I'll be putting it like that. Okay, so for this, once you get your flowers down, we're just going to tuck it a little bit underneath. I think I just need a little more coffee. So I'm going to carefully lift this. Okay, our cover looks awesome. It looks good. Whether flowers or not, it's complete. And he was worth it because he stands out now. Otherwise, if you wouldn't have backed him, I'm afraid he would have bled into the background and he wouldn't have been brought forward like he is. We are now moving on to page 1. I'm going to let my flowers dry and I'll see you tomorrow. We're on page 1 and we have some pre-cuts. Page 1 is going to be a fun one. But I did want to go over really quick. I forgot to do it. But in case you got any splinters or shards sticking up from where that seam is, what you're going to do is grab your glue. And you're going to put a little glue underneath those little shards. You'll take your finger and you will roll it in the direction it's supposed to go. Once you do that, then you're going to tap it down twice and then leave it alone. If you still need, you didn't get it all, wait for it to dry and then do it again. All right, so that's a super quick, easy fix to do. Page 1 is a fun one. Now, I did something similar about 3 years ago in a baby tutorial, but we're going to have a sliding waterfall. So we're going to review our pre-cuts. And if you are new, I do take this, especially this page, very slow. This is a step-by-step tutorial, start to finish, and beginner friendly. So let's start off with our pre-cuts that you would have downloaded for free off my website on the blog. So the first thing you would have done is cut 2 pieces that are 5 3/4 by 7 1/2. We called these folders. We laid each one down and we are 7 1/2 inches across, and we scored each at 3 3/4. And you can go ahead and fold on these. These will be one of the last things that we do, or somewhere in the middle. I might do before the end, but we're going to do a couple folders together. Next, we had a 2-inch by 12-inch piece. We called it a slider. So it doesn't matter if your starting point starts over here or if your starting point 0 is over here. It doesn't matter. I'm going to situate us so that we're all the same way. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 12 inches across. We scored at 4 3/4, 5 1/8, 5 1/2, 5 7/8, 6 1/4, and 6 5/8. Now, if you already pre-cut, I'd like you to lay your piece back down on your scoring board. That way we can situate ourselves. So if you started over here with the starting point and you went like that, this would be your shorter side. If your 0 starting point is over here, like mine, this would be your shorter side. And you can also measure from the score line over, score line over. But the shorter side, I need you to write short, just like that, on the shorter side. Okay? Next pre-cuts, I should say, is we cut 5 pieces that were 4 5/8 by 6 inch. We called them a mat. There's no scoring. I only labeled one of mine. Next, we had a 2 by 6 inch piece and we called it a band. No scoring. We cut a 2-inch by 3-inch and we called it a pull extender. I don't know if you can read my writing there, but it's a pull extender. Next, we had a very large pre-cut, an 8 by 10 1/2, and we called it a fold out. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 10 1/2 inches across. We scored at 1/2 and 5/8. And again, it doesn't matter if your scoring starts over here. I'll situate us the right way. Next, what we had was 2 pieces, 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. We called them top pocket. On each one of these, we laid these on our scoring board. We are 4 1/2 inches across. We scored at 1/2 inch. The instructions then said to rotate your paper or turn your paper. So now it's 5 1/2 inches across. We scored at 1/2 and 5 inches on each one of these. Our top pocket. Last, 3-inch by 8 3/4. We called it a wrap side pocket. There's no scoring. In your paper pack, you will have this print. On the other side, it is this one. We're going to be looking at it. On this side, we're going to turn it this way, measure over 9 1/4 inch, and cut. After making that cut, this is what you have. Put that in your reserves. And I think, we're going to turn this upside down. The band is up here. Measure over 10 inches and cut. After making that cut, this is what you have. This is going to be our main page that we're going to work with, but we're going to set this off to the side. We're going to get all the pieces to our sliding waterfall handy. We have the 5 mats. We'll stick off to the side. We have a 2x3 pull extender. We have a 2x6 band. We'll stick those over there. And we have the slider, and we wrote short on the short side. So what I'd like you to do right now is all we're going to do is we're going to fold on those score lines. Keep folding away from us, one direction. So now when you do that, your writing should be up and the short should be right here. So let's open that up now. You can see how we're going to have a mechanism that goes like this. The longer one, here's short in front, and here's the long. Now I want you to write at the bottom of that, facing towards you, long. So short and long. So we're going to open this up. Now you can see each one of those score lines there. We're going to grab those mats. So here is a mat, and you will see here, I'm going to put pencil on mine so you can see it a little better. I really don't want anyone to mess up. Draw lines so you can see on those score lines. And this is going to make it easier for you to see what the heck I'm doing here. And to make sure that there's no goof ups, and because this is kind of a critical part when placing glue. So here you can see now my score lines are easier to see. If you have 1/4 inch score tape, what you're going to do is lay it in between those 2 score lines without getting it on the score line. All right, grab your ruler. We'll do this for the first one. You are 2 inches across. Where you see the 1 inch mark, I want you to put a little thing. So now you know where the middle is. Grab your first picture mat. We are 6 inches across. Lay this down. And at 3 inches, I want you to put a mark just like that at the top there. So what we're going to do is place our glue. If you have score tape, you've laid it down, you burnish, clip off anything overhanging. But we are not going to get that glue, and we're going to go real light with that glue so we don't have anything squirting out. Now we're going to take this, we can still see that little line there, and we're going to try and line this up, and we're going to come up to that score line without going over. And I'm going to extend my little things like this, just pencil marks, so it'll be easier because you have your glue down. And we're just going to lay it, and I can still see my pencil mark. Make sure it's on straight. That's half the battle too. And I'm looking down here to make sure it looks even. Whoops, I got something on here. So there's our first one. Now we're going to do that again. Do not get on your score line, just a little bit of glue in there, enough to hold it down. And if you want to put another line, you can. But this and this should be even with that. So that'll help us. So right up to the next score line, I'm going to make sure the sides are even. We'll burnish. Okay, we'll do that again. We'll take our piece and we'll go up to the next score line. And we'll do this 2 more times. And And I need to be able to see my score, that little pencil mark I did. All right. Wipe up any glue. And we're going to let this sit for a moment, okay? Once it is dry, this piece here, we're going to bring back, and that's the one that says long. And I'm also going to wipe up any glue I see through there, because what's going to happen is if you put your hand down on the long right now and you have the short in this one, you can see we're going to be able to flip once we get this all done. So here's the long. I want you to grab your 2x3 pull extender. I'm going to grab my score tape. You want to put it on the extender. I am 2 inches across. And you're going to put it at the top there without going over, and we'll clip it off, any overhang there. And now that long piece, we're just going to get that on there as straight as we can and just go right on over that. So you can still see. That way, we're not going to snag. So just fold that back. Here's short. You want to make sure that you get this even. So place your ruler down across your short. Put a 1-inch mark at the 1 inch. Okay, so we know that's 1 inch. On this one, we have it 6 inches across. And at the 3-inch mark, we're going to go there. Here's something. So you can see what I'm doing. Here's the long. This is scrap. And I'm just going to put my scrap piece right underneath the short. You should still see your words there. This piece, whoops, lay it down. And I should have brought this a little higher so we can at least see. Shame on me. And you see where your 3-inch mark is that we put a little pencil mark on? Well, bring this long 6-inch piece all the way to the bottom of your short. Line up your lines so they are straight, and then I want you to draw across here. Okay? So now you will be able to see this. Let's add our glue. Now you can use score tape. We're just going to use some glue here. We're going to take this, make sure it's at the bottom, and we're going to line that up with our other one. And we'll burnish. So now we can tell what's what. And here's our other one sticking out the extender down there. That is going to make it much easier. So now if you were to pull this, pull it down, and if you put your fingers on it like side to side without pushing on this, you will see that you can now slide this. This will slide by pulling that. Okay. In your reserves, you will have this piece. The first thing I would like us to do is measure over 5 7/8 and cut. So this is the piece we're looking at. We're going to do 2 cuts. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. This piece right here, we're going to center right on the top, side to side, top to bottom, and we're going to glue it down. I have a scratch piece, or actually I have some other pattern paper. This isn't the collection, but I'm using it as my scrap piece so I can see and what I'm doing here to keep me straight too. Okay. Now, if you fold this one up, the one we just worked on, fold that up, fold this one up, we're going to place this one right here. And I'm going to slide something back behind so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so far we have that, and if we were to close it now, there would be a black space in between. Let's just go right here. Let's find some paper there. We are going to be conserving, and we are going to be seaming together pieces or overlapping pieces. But in your reserves, you will have this piece. It's 12 inches long, I believe. It is. And then, of course, the cuttings that we just had will be like this. Now, on both of these, what I would like you to do is measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again, 5 7/8 and cut. After doing those cuts, you'll have 2 of these and 2 of these. So on this first one, we're going to go ahead and glue this down. And we'll just make sure we are centered side to side and even. And that way we're conserving and it'll look good. This one. So now we're going to use this one here. Matters not. We're going to be doing the same type of deal here. And I'm just going to lay it down. I'm going to line up the sides. Give myself the same amount of spacing I did at the bottom. There we go. All right, we'll flip that. We'll flip that. And we're going to do the same thing. This and then this. So let's do that. Okay, I have mine down. We'll go ahead and flip that up. We still have this one to get at. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It is about 5 7/8 approximately. And we have this, another one of these. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. All right. I'm just going to kind of put this one down and then this one. All right, we have that down. If you were to do it, we have that band. We're not going to worry about that just yet. We'll kind of look and see what we got going here, and I think that looks really good. So we'll put this first one up. We're going to start getting paper there. So locate one of your covers, and the first thing I want us to do is put this on our paper cutter. You see where the blue band is? We're just going to cut all the way down. I'll show you mine. All right, so when I cut mine, I left the blue band on this one. What I want us to do is we are going to turn our paper this way. We're going to measure over 4 inches and cut. That's what you should have. We're going to turn it, measure over 5 7/8 and cut, measure over again 5 7/8 and cut. All right, we're going to take this one, we'll center it right on in there, and we'll glue it down. All right, so we'll flip it up, and we're going to glue this one down right on in there. Okay, I have that done. We'll flip that up. Now for this one, because I want to use some of this, for this one, what I would like to do is, you see where the blue band here meets the cream? We're going to put that on our paper cutter and cut all the way down. I'm going to show you mine. So when I did that, I still have some blue. Let's flip it over, measure over 4 inches and cut. Now, when you do the 4 inches, if you see any of that white, you're just going to trim this again and get that white print off there. So I got the majority off. I have this left, and I'm good with that. I'm going to measure over 5 7/8 and cut, and I'll measure over again 5 7/8 and cut. Does not matter which one that you would like, but we're going to get it right on in there and glue that down. These are some good sized pieces, and that is why I wanted to use the cover the best I could to use up some of those prints. Okay, I got a little glue there. Got that. I'm going to fold that up. I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to place it right there. You would never know that this came off the cover. All right, when you're done with that, we'll fold it up. In your reserves, you will have a piece like this left over from cutting, and you'll have a long piece here from when we cut on this. On both of these, measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Okay, so with this, you do not want to get it on our little slider. So you can maneuver this any way you want. I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to put glue on this. And I'll leave a black border up there, center side to side. Clean up any glue. So I'm getting crazy with this glue, that's for sure. Okay, with this one, we're just going to bring it right there. I am leaving a 1/16 inch away from the top of the slider, and I'm just going to glue that down. Any side that you would like to use there. I'm going to go with a little bit lighter side up. I like it, and I hope you do too. All right, here is our band, and we have a slider piece there. We're going to get something for the band. In your reserves, you will have two very long skinny pieces like this. We'll put them together. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. I'm not sure if I quite got 6 inches there, but we'll find out. And I'm just going to lay this side to side. I'm going to leave just a sliver of black there. And I'm only getting this on that band. So you definitely want to make sure you put something, scrap piece underneath. But I do want to just kind of still see some black. It'll help me later on, and it'll look good. No one's really going to notice a little. And then, whoops, this one for the top, all the way to the side. Okay, in our reserves, we have this piece. See where it says the magic is in you? Well, let's just cut that out. I'm not going to be backing this with anything. I'm just going to cut out and round. Real easy. We'll apply some glue. And I'm just going to try and center that in there. There we go. All right, we need to get in here. All right, in your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it's this. This is about 2 inches by about 3 3/8. Now, what I would like you to do on this is just shave off about a 1/16 off, just a sliver right off this. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to lay this down, and you can see where the top of your slider is, but you are going to leave a 1/16 inch away from the top. You're going to bring it down, get your pencil. Why am I just losing everything? I'm going to scoot mine over just a little bit so that I can see where the top of our band is. So about a 1/16 from the top, scoot it over, and then I can see where the top of my band is. And I'm going to make a pencil mark right here. And now I'm going to cut it. You can do this side or you can do this side. And I think I'm going to go with it like that. Now definitely grab something, put it back behind, and we're going to get that down. So that looks pretty good, finished. Okay, now we need to get for this long piece. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It is 2 3/4 by 12 inches. I'm going to flip it over to where I can see this. The blue is over here. We're going to measure over 7 5/8 and cut. So this is what you should have. I'd like you to measure over 1 7/8 and cut. Make sure yours fits. So this is going to cover up that seam, and we will put it down. It will not interfere. It'll be well away from that. We're going to make sure we get this down and make sure you get those sides. And we'll clean up any glue. Which way do I want to go? I guess I'll go like this. All right, it is time to get this page on here. Now this, what I want you to do is pull it all back. Now, I want you to measure down from the top in the center somewhere 1 1/2 inches and make a pencil line. I have to do mine pretty dark. because of the background, but the top of this is gonna be right like that. It's gonna be right on there, and I'm gonna make sure, I'm not gluing anything yet, but that is where I wanna be, and you're gonna want to get this on here pretty centered side to side. Okay, so now that you know where this sits, I want you to carefully just hold it down here. We're going to get this up. Now grab this so you have a hold of it. Should pull it down. And we're side to side. Okay, here it is. Now what I need you to do is first I want you to draw. And you'll want to do this, and you'll draw all the way until you hit your slider. But you've got to be able to see it. Now, don't lift it. You're going to draw over here. All you have is enough room for a couple fingers here. All the way to the end. So I can see mine now. And I'm going to make sure that I bring this back. I know where it sits now down here. And I just got my fingers down. I have another finger kind of propping it up so I can see. And I'm just going to draw my pencil. And it has to be pretty dark for me to see it. And that is fine. And over here. Now while I still have it down, I'm going to go ahead and put it across the top at the edge. Just to get me started here. All right, so I can see where the top of this piece would sit here. We're going to draw a line across, connect those. And it's pretty important that we do this because we want to make sure we get this where we need to be. Now we know where the sides, where the slider piece in the middle goes. I want you to draw a line up. Just do up. And over here, looks like I'm about 2 inches in or so. So we know it's 2 inches, so my rulers are 2 inches, so that makes it great. Now, here's the trick. When we apply glue for our piece, okay, you see this is where the slider would go. We're going to make sure we're at least a 1/16 to 1/8, go 1/8 away from our line here. That way our slider, this piece, doesn't get hung up. So now we know where it goes, right? So I'm going to make sure I'm away from those lines. And I'm just going to get glue. And I already have this. I'm not going to get real heavy over here because I don't want it to spread out too much. Just real light. And we're going to allow, see I got a bunch of glue right there. I'm going to pat it out. But we're going to allow this to dry. So here we go. This piece, when I do this, I know this will come down here. I got to make sure that this is in the center between that glue. So I'm going to bring it down. And it's in between, covering those marks. And I should be fairly straight there. Okay. While that's going on, I am going to take this and I'm going to get underneath there as best I can without moving that around. And I'm going to look to make sure, feel to make sure there's no glue seeping out. And I'm going to be pushing away from that center point. That's probably the best way to do. But we definitely want to make sure that that is down. All right, so now let's pull this. We'll hold on to it because it's still gluing. And it should be able to have room to move. Clean up any glue. And once this is stationary, it'll be much easier. So we're not going to do anything with trimming that down. I'm going to leave it as it is. Okay, So we have this in our reserve from when we were cutting. You see, imagination is the golden path to everywhere. Well, I think I'm just going to cut that out, and then I'll even it up on my board. Okay, so I'm going to square this up just a little bit. Well, that wasn't too hard. I would like to frame that on black. So grab some black cardstock, and then we'll cut out and around, leaving a little bit of a black border. And I'm just going to hand cut mine. So there's mine, and I think I'm going to just put this off to the side and make it to be a little tuck. So a little glue here and along the bottom without going over. Slightly at an angle. That looks really good. On our cut apart sheet, let's get this out. So I think that this is going to disconnect now, but maybe I can get it at, nope, it's going to disconnect. Oh well. I'll make sure I can still find it. See this? We're going to cut this out too, the leaf. Okay, all of this goes in reserves. Let's cut out and around each of these. I have both of mine done. I'm going to glue that there and glue that right there. All right, it is time to grab our 8 by 10.5 fold out. Those score lines, we're going to fold on each one of them. Use our tool, and I'm going to go wash my hands here in a minute. Now, I tried the best way I could to teach this. It's not an easy one to teach, to make sure that everyone gets it the right way. But anyway, maybe next time I teach it, it'll go a little more smoother. Here we go. I folded. You have an outside and an inside score line. On that outside one, we're going to pinch and crease. We're going to hook it on back behind this, and we're going to bring it centered, top and bottom. And once you have it in that crease, I want you to pinch and really hold on to it, because this page is kind of heavy. If you feel it slip, realign, place your hand down, carefully open that up, and you should be able to see your score line here. If it's really crooked, you have this on crooked. So if it's not in line with your paper looking straight, it probably slipped. So I'm just going to get this on. I think mine may have slipped a little while I was pulling it over, but we'll find out. And those things just happen half the time. You're not going to notice it. No, I got it on pretty straight. So now we're going to open it up and investigate, make sure there's no glue seeping out, and we're going to fold back against that other one. And then we're going to push in on it. And that's going to create some spacing there. All right, we need to give this a slight bend without creasing. Let's grab a magnet. We're going to need a plus and a minus. Plus, minus, just so that we end up with the same pairs. Let's grab our plus. Oop, you come here. Now on this, we're going to go straight over to the side. We're going to be from the side of your cardstock to the side of this magnet, maybe a 1/4 inch. About a 1/4 inch would be good. And place it. Again, give this a little bend. This will settle down a little. Now, we don't want to pull it to where our spacing is off, but what we're going to do is just lay it over. We will press down with our fingers here, and it's going to find its home. We're going to squirt a little glue in between that paper, and you'll be able to see your minus there. Now we have to let this sit for a moment so it does not slide and get out of alignment for us. So I'm going to let this sit for a moment, and I'm going to go wash my hands. I've got glue everywhere, all over me. And when I come back, this should be dry. Oh, I washed my hands and refilled my coffee there a little bit. I think we're dry. So our fold out, our opening is over here. So right now, I would like you just to shimmy it down a little to disconnect that. And we're going to open this up. In your paper pack, you will have this, and on the back, it is this. Turn it sideways. Adventures of Forest is up over here. Measure over 2 7/8 and cut. This is what you should have. This piece that we cut off, just set off to the side. We're going to look at it like this. Measure over 9 5/8 and cut. This piece goes in our reserves. Turn it this way. The deer is over here. Measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Okay, so put this off to the side. This is what we have. Grab your wrap side pocket. I'm going to move this all the way out so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So this is a wrap style pocket, and I decided to do it on this because this is such a big piece. But grab your glue. Along the side here, run some glue, just like that. Take your wrap side pocket, and this edge goes to this edge, but you want to make sure you have overhang, equal overhang. At least enough that you can wrap your sides back behind. So I think I got that on pretty straight. I am, as you can see, I have some overhang, but I'm going to turn it over and make sure that this is lining up right, and it is. I'm going to get my tool out here, and I'll burnish over here. Now I'm just going to fold this back behind. I'm going to fold that without folding my paper. And we'll glue this down, these flaps, and we'll definitely give that a good burnish. Okay, we can still see the deer, and you should have just some gap there so you can still get your mats in. The reason why I did the wrap instead of the other style that I usually do, which we'll be doing in this on page 1 in just a bit, is because it won't leave everything so floppy on such a large piece. I want to do something different. Grab this. We set this off to the side, measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Okay, you have a choice. You can glue it down like this. You will leave yourself a black lip here. You can do it like that, or you can do it like that where Adventures in the Forest. I am going to go ahead, and I think I'll have mine like this. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go this side with the wood. I like wood grain. But either way, it's up to you. So now if you have a photograph, it'll fit. This is a good size photograph. It'll fit, or if you have one on the landscape, it'll fit. Plus you have for your picture mats right in there. Let's grab our piece, and this is going to sit right over here. We're going to leave a little bit of a black border, a 1/16 actually over here. We will center this top and bottom. That should give us 1/8 away from that. You can use score tape or glue. I am going to be using glue on this. And we're going to glue that down. I'm going to make sure I get around that magnet. Looks good. Let's close that up. It should latch for you. And right now what we're going to do is work on the top pockets. So grab your scissors. On each one of these, you will have score line going down the side, situated to where your score line is going across the bottom. It creates a little square. We're going to cut out the squares on both of these. So I'm just cutting right on that score line or right next to it. Do it for this one. And we're just going to get these ready to go. So once you've done that, this is what you should have. Flip them over. We're going to fold and use our tool, folding towards us. Okay, this little flap here at the bottom, if you were to pull in your sides, you can see where the side of this is. The object is to get your glue in the corner without going past where this side would go. Push them in and pull this up. Give that a good burnish. And we'll do the same with this. Alrighty, our pockets are ready. Now in the tutorial, this is always, the lip is always the bottom, so I'll say this is the opening, so that make sure you get yours situated correctly. We'll stick these off to the side. In your paper pack, you will have this print. It's lovely. On the back, it is this. So what we're going to do is turn it sideways. The castle's up here. We have this. Measure over 7 3/4 and cut. The piece that we want is this. Flip this upside down. The castle is over here. Measure over 9 5/8 and cut. Alrighty, let's apply glue. We're going to center that right on top there, side to side, top to bottom. We'll have a black frame around that. And we'll give that a good burnish. Once you've burnished, your piece should look like this, and we gave that a little bend to help it around. Here's our pockets. The opening is here. So on the back, there's the bottom. We're going to lay these out for just a moment. You'll still be able to see the top of the castle, but the idea is to leave some space, about maybe 1/4 inch in between, and that's where it's going to place. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and make a pencil line. So it's a little bit even, you know. I want to try and keep this as even as I can. So now I know. All right, let's put glue on those back flaps. Match that up. That looks pretty good. Okay, same thing. My pencil line. And then I can make sure that I'm even with the other one by looking. Okay, and I'll pucker it up a little just like I did the other one. And I don't want to get my head in the video, but I hope these are straight. Alrighty, in your reserves, you will have this piece. Okay, it's 12 inches long. This is the side we're going to have up. It's about 4 1/4, I would say. Measure over 3 7/8 and cut. Okay, now we're going to make 2 cuts. Actually, yeah, we're going to make 2 cuts. I'm going to turn this upside down. You see where you have this? Should be over to the left. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. Alrighty, so this is what we have. And I'm going to have this one over here. I'll bring it to the bottom of that pocket. That should give me a black border around the sides and the top. And I'm going to glue these down. All right, looking good. Let's set this off to the side. We have our folders. We're going to put this on our paper cutter, and we're going to go ahead and divide. And we're going to cut out and around, leaving the blue border or the brown borders. And I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done. All right, here's our first folder. The openings are always going to be off to the right for this. If we need to do more trimming, we can. My favorite print, the deer. We're just going to lay that down and center it. That should give you a black border all the way around. Let's glue that one down really quick. All right, I have that one. And I think we're going to place this one. Make sure it's fit. You don't need to do any trimming. All right, we're going to flip these other ones over. We'll just glue these right on down to the inside. You can situate these any way you'd like. All right, they should fit right on in these pockets. Plenty of room. That looks wonderful. We might put something a little down here, I think. But first, let's just flip this over. Here comes the score tape. we're going to do score tape around the outside like a picture frame. One down the middle, two shorter ones in between. Leave this on. Don't remove your score tape backing. Let's just get this on and burnish. We will be placing page 1 in the book after we complete page 2. Here is the back of mine. One last thing before we finish up. Always believe in magic. Again, don't come up this way, come in from the side. Let's cut this out, and then we're going to mount it to some black cardstock, and we're going to place this on one of those pockets. I have mine mounted to black cardstock, and you know, we can go right in between there. Boy, we can even use that for maybe a tuck. So let's do this. I'm going to rotate this. I'm only going to go right back here, and get it a little here. There's that spacing. And I'll go right in the middle somewhere. Page 1 is complete. We are now going to move on to page 2. So set this off to the side.